Good day, subscribers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am Jeremy. This is the Financial Education Channel, and today we're talking about my 5 worst investments I have ever made in my life, guys. The 5 times I'm just like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I make that investment? We're going to count it down from number 5 to number 1. Pretty simple video. Not much to it. Hope you guys enjoy today. Hit that thumbs up button if you do, and let's get into this. So, number 5, coming in number 5, is Cirrus Logic. My first time I had invested in Cirrus Logic. So Cirrus Logic and me, we've had a romantic relationship. We were involved at one time and then we broke up, and then we were involved another time and that was really great time. And then now I'm thinking about getting involved with it again. It's like an on and off relationship. But the first time I invested in Cirrus Logic, this is a company, by the way, that gets the majority, or, you know, they still to this day still get the majority of their revenue from Apple. They're in your iPhone, if you have one, iPads, things like that have to do with the audio codecs that go into those devices, the amplifiers, things like that. So this situation was basically 2012 happened. Cirrus Logic was a high-flying stock for several years, from like 2009 to 2011 into 2012 was a high-flying stock, and then all of a sudden it got hammered because basically what happened was Apple said, we don't want to pay as much for your audio codecs anymore, so we're either going to go somewhere else or you are going to cut down the price on that. And so what did Cirrus Logic do? They cut down their price. It hurt margins, it hurt profits, it hurt the whole growth story in Cirrus Logic, all that kind of stuff. So this stock had been hammered, and it went from a stock that was like $40-something a share to now a $20-something a share stock, about almost a 50% drop. And this is when I got interested, because Cirrus Logic had a great balance sheet at that time. They still do to this day. They had a great balance sheet. They had, you know, even though profits were going down, they still had good profits coming in. So they were a very profitable company, great balance sheet, small company, easy to keep track of. So I saw this as an opportunity, and I remember them talking a lot about smart codecs and how smart codecs were going to play out in the future and whatnot. And this was really good news and whatnot. And I saw this company and I said, this looks like a good company for me. So I made it into my second biggest investment. And I held this company for a little over a year. And the stock did nothing, absolutely nothing. The majority of the time I held that position, I was actually down on the position, guys. So this was a situation where, you know, the iPhone 5S came out. They were supposed to have more content in that iPhone 5S, and they did not. They still did not have the smart codec in at that time into the iPhone 5S, which is coincidentally still the iPhone I have now. And stock was just a piece of junk, and I held it for over a year, sold out of my position, and literally I sold it for a break even. I didn't make any money. Now, why is that such a bad thing? Well, because the opportunity cost. Every other stock I held, other than Cirrus Logic, was doing phenomenal. I was holding a stock named Cabela's at that time, which was my number 1 investment. If I had stuck that Cirrus Logic money into Cabela's, my goodness, my portfolio would have been, you know, tens of thousands of dollars up more than it was. I held stocks like Monster Beverage that did phenomenal during that time. Several different stocks that all did amazing except for that one. And there was tons of other stocks in the stock market that were doing phenomenal as well that I was keeping track of. But Cirrus Logic, my second biggest investment, didn't do anything. Now, we got back together right before the iPhone 6 came out, which was a phenomenal time to invest in Cirrus Logic at that time. The price was still depressed at this time. I remember buying shares for like $19 a share or something like that. And unfortunately, that one, I'm the one that screwed up, because then I sold out of that one around $30, and now it's over a $60 stock. So Cirrus Logic screwed me once, and I screwed up with Cirrus Logic once. Let's just put it that way, guys. So a romantic relationship between me and Cirrus Logic, pretty dramatic. But needless to say, that's my 5th worst investment ever, because I held a stock for over a year and didn't make any money. Number 4 is a company named BP, one of the biggest oil giants out there, natural gas giants. So BP, it was around like the spring of 2010. All of a sudden they had this huge oil spill that happens in the, I think it was the Gulf of Mexico or Louisiana type area, right? And huge oil spill, national news, you know, all over the United States, all over worldwide news, huge oil spill under the ocean, spilling out gas everywhere, oil everywhere. And I saw this as an opportunity because BP stock was getting hit pretty hard. It was like down like 30%, 40%, and or something around there, around 30%, I believe it was. And I was kind of reading through their balance sheet, and I had been investing for like a year at this time, maybe a year and a half. And so I was kind of feeling good about myself. And I was reading through their balance sheet, and they had a phenomenal balance sheet, and all this talk about BP is going to go bankrupt. I knew it was just a bunch of nonsense because they had the balance sheet to make it through this, weather the storm, no matter how much it costs. And I kind of estimated costs around 20 to 25 billion this would end up. So I invested in it, and my initial investment, I think I stuck $500 in it. It went down from there, and then it went down like $1 or $2 from there. I put another 500 in it, so I had $1,000 in this stock at the time. I was still living with my parents at that time. I was like, I want to say 20 years old maybe at the time. And needless to say, finally the stock came to break even, and then finally it went up. Like I made like 1.5% to a 2.5% return, like a very small return. And I held this stock for 5 or 6 months. And that's not a great return for holding a stock for 6 months, especially when you consider this was 2010 and a massive amount of stocks were still depressed from the recession. And there's so many amazing companies I could have made 50, 100, 200% returns because so many stocks were still at these depressed levels. And I went with that stock. And it was such a bad investment, not because I lost money, because I technically made a little teeny bit of money. The reason it was such a bad investment was because I could have been in so many other companies, and the main reason is, now that I look back at it, why it was such a bad investment was because the opportunity wasn't there versus what the risk was. If you're going to take a big risk like I took in that one, and everybody told me don't invest in that one, and I don't know, maybe I just invested in it because I wanted to prove everybody wrong or something like that. I don't know how I was feeling at that time. But when you take a big risk like I took in that one, right? Going into a company that's got this huge, massive oil spill, it's going to cost tens of billions of dollars to clean up. And you got to have like something, a reward on the other side that's got to be huge. The reward on the other side for BP was not huge. Like there was no opportunity. Like what's the stock going to go up 5 or 10% versus what could happen, maybe a bankruptcy or something like that. So that was a really dumb investment. Like for as much risk as I took in that one and versus the opportunity, it was not there, guys. If this was like, if they come out of this and they're good, the stock's going to go up hundreds of percent or something, then you can make an argument that that was worth the risk. But not when, what are you going to get, a 5, 10, 15% gain out of it? Not really worth it. So that's my 4th worst investment ever. The number 3 worst investment ever, I can literally not even remember the name of the company. This is another one around 2010-ish range. I was in college around this time too. I was still living with my parents. And it was it's just early 2010 or maybe it was late 2009. And it was this medical device company that basically sold, they didn't really sell medical devices, they sold like medical packs. So like say you're going in for a kidney surgery, like they would sell hospitals like a kit that had everything included in it that you needed to go out and do your little, kidney surgery or whatever there. They had that in the kit and that was their business. And this is a stock I held for over a year and sold for break even at a time, I think it was either late 2009 or early 2010 I was investing in this company, and all the way through, and I held it for over a year, and so many companies were so depressed, so many great companies, and I buy this company that's like a medical supply company. Oh my gosh, I could have made so much more money in such better stocks in that, and I picked that one and it did me nothing. I sold for break even, and I don't know, I might have had $1,200 in it or something. And it's just like, why would I do that? I could have made, double, triple my money at that time. It was such a great time to invest, and I was picking a stock like that to be one of my investments. Bad decision there, bad decision. Number 2 worst investment I ever made was Walmart 2011, 2012. At this time, Walmart was in a good position, but his stock would not move, and I owned the stock during that time. It was one of my bigger investments. It was like number 4 or number 3 biggest investment I had. I think it was number 4. And I held the stock and it went literally nowhere for all that time I held it. I held it for, I want to say 10 to 11 months, somewhere around there. It did me nothing. It was another stock I sold for break even. And it was just like, what am I doing in a stock like that when I had every other stock I had was doing phenomenal at that time, guys. And just another stock that, and by the way, back then I had a philosophy of I would never sell a stock for a loss. So if I was frustrated with the position, if I want to get up position, what I would do is I would just wait for it to break even and then sell it. And that's what I did with Walmart there. And I don't know, just it was a low P stock back then, and it just did nothing. And the number 1 worst investment I've ever made in my life is a company named GoPro. GoPro is the worst investment I've ever made, and I still hold to this day. Why is it such a bad investment? Well, it's a company I've held for well over a year now, coming up on a year and a half here in a couple months, right? As of recording this video, I'm down over 30% on that position. Down over 30%, held it for well over a year. It's going to be a year and a half here in a couple months, and down over 30%. And that is just an absolute disaster. When you take into account that the market has done phenomenal, especially the last, let's say, 6 months of markets have done really well. And you look at the other stocks I've held have done really well. Every other stock I've owned has done phenomenal, except that one. So when you take into account how that's my biggest investment, when you take into account how much I'm down versus the amount of time versus all the other investments I have that are all successful and some of them super successful, especially my second best investment, Wynn Resorts, my second biggest investment, I'm just like, oh gosh, like what went wrong there? And what went wrong, what I saw in the company when I first, started really getting involved with it, which was May 2016, is I saw a company that was supposed to have a drone come out in the spring sometime or summer. And then all of a sudden that got pushed back to the second quarter, and that hurt the stock. And then all of a sudden they finally launched the drone and they screwed up the whole drone launch and it got recalled, and they didn't produce enough camera units, and they didn't get, oh my gosh, they did so many things wrong. And that is why I'm down huge on that position, because the company, oh gosh, like I've never been involved with a stock that messed up so much in such a small amount of time, and that's why I'm down huge on that position. And thank goodness I care about balance sheets, because if I didn't, that stock would be worthless right now. They would have already went out of business, because they wouldn't have been able to weather the storm of the huge, massive losses they've had to take because of all the mistakes they've made. Do I still believe in the company? I do. I still think I'm going to be able to make a nice profit on it. But regardless if I make a nice profit on it, when you take into account how long I've held it versus what I might get out of it for a profit, I would have been better off in so many other stocks, including so many other stocks that I hold currently, guys. So worst investment I've ever made, and it's not even close between all the others. All the others are like, I sold for break even or this or that. And this one's just a bad story. So anyways, it's kind of a downer video, top 5 worst investments I ever made. It's not fun talking about the mistakes, but it's good because you got to talk about it, because if you're in this game long enough like I've been, you're going to make mistakes out there. You're going to make, you'll either take losses or you'll hold a stock for a long time and barely sell it for break even, or do this or do that, or be down huge on a position, or just make a wrong investment. It's going to happen eventually, guys, if you're in this game long enough. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this today. If you just came across this channel, you may want to subscribe. We talk personal finance, we talk entrepreneurship, and we talk the stock market more than anything. Man, it's such a downer video. Tomorrow, maybe some positivity. Thank you for watching, guys, and have a great day.